Ryan, last time we spoke about the state of the market and what's going on. A lot of people want to know. We always cover three factors, and so I want to ask you some questions about that. Right now, people are asking a lot of questions just kind of in general. And I think the market's a little bit better than what people think locally. I mean, obviously, real estate has slowed down a little bit with interest rates and all that. But our indicators really show that it's a little bit better market than what people think. And we're starting to see that. Our market, it'll change probably from day to day, week to week. And so we've seen it where this week it was hot, this week it was paused, or this month it was, and it's changing all the time. And so we always have this question, which is why I want to go over it. So today we're going to go over employment, interest rates, and inventory, and then I'll kind of, we can talk about what that really means.
Sure.
But start us off with employment.
Yeah, and again, just to preface, it's nice to kind of have those same data points to keep coming back to as we do go through these different markets, like you said, having the same indicators that we're looking at each time. And as we've discussed on past videos, I agree. I think it's a great way to kind of set a benchmark for where we're at. So to dive in, if we look at the employment picture right now, I'll actually start by looking at the unemployment picture, which is, right now we're sitting at about 3.1% locally, which is slightly higher than it's been, but still well below the national average, almost 20% below the national average. And if we look locally, which, we like to look local, and real estate's a hyper-local conversation. It's not a national conversation, especially not here. So if we look local, we're, Austin market, the greater Austin market is the second best performing job market in the entire U.S. since the beginning of the pandemic. And that's only slightly behind the Dallas-Fort Worth employment market. So, when you take that into consideration, with Austin being one of the best employment markets in the entire U.S., that's very encouraging for what's going on locally in the real estate markets. And then you add that to announcements of companies that we have coming here, because that's not included in our employment picture. The jobs that Samsung's going to bring, the jobs like CellLink that's coming, and Amazon's adding, and TikTok and Facebook, all of them have announced, jobs that are coming here. Those aren't included in this employment number currently. So if we look at what's on the horizon, it's an amazing picture for what employment could look like here in the next 5 years, 10 years. And I think it's just scratching the surface.
And that's what I'm telling people both on our commercial side and the residential side. I mean, I'm biased, but I believe we're one of the best places in the nation, or maybe even in the world. When you think about a year ago or so, we were talking about Tesla, and we're so excited about them building a $1 billion plant and what that looked like. And then Samsung comes and says they're going to build a $17 billion plant. And then a few months ago, they come back and say, we're going to build multiple plants for a total of $200 billion.
Yeah. And
then that doesn't even include all the other businesses that want to be around them. And we know about some of those kind of poking around on some of our commercial properties and everything. It's crazy. And so more and more people will continue to move here. Employment will just get better.
Yeah. And that's reflected in the calls that we get every day at our office from people around the state of Texas, people from around the country moving here for job opportunities that they're not seeing in other parts of the country. And so, yeah, that's one leg of the three that we talked about, employment, and incredibly optimistic about the employment picture in the greater Austin area now and for the next decade. It's looking really good. So with that, let's dive into the second leg of those three and talk about interest rates, because that's probably had the biggest impact on our real estate market this year. And it probably had one of the bigger impacts on the market in the previous years too, with the interest rates being historically low, lower than they've ever been. It created a demand in our market that I don't know that anybody was prepared for or could have predicted. And now that we've seen those rates come up since January to more of a normal level, it doesn't feel normal. It feels like rates are way out of bounds right now. But it's good to kind of take a 10,000 foot view when we talk about interest rates and look at where we've been historically to kind of get some perspective on where we're at now. And if we were to look from 1971 all the way to 2009, we never saw a mortgage rate below 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the average for the last 30 years, I think, was a 7% mortgage. The average for the last 40 years was like an 8.5% mortgage. So right now we're sitting in the low fives, maybe low to mid fives, somewhere in that range, which again, if we take a historical look at things, is still a very reasonable and below average interest rate. Just feels different right now.
For sure.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 18 months. You know, in my opinion, I think we could potentially see rates come down a little bit off of this. A lot of that's dependent on what the Federal Reserve does here in the next coming months, as a lot of the borrowing rates, which mortgage rates would fall under borrowing rates, are determined by the federal funds rate. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And inflation and interest rates, or at least the federal funds rate, are so closely tied because that's how they can. That's a mechanism they use to try to control inflation. And we know what inflation has done this year, and that's caused the federal funds rate to have to increase to try to curb that inflation. But maybe the best way to say it is, you know, take a bigger picture look at interest rates to realize that we're still in a pretty good place from an interest rate environment, from a mortgage rate environment. And here's the advice we give to buyers every day. You know, could rates go up? Yes, they could. Could they go down? Yes, they could. Lock in today. If they're significantly lower a year from now, refinance, right? This is the time to find the house that you really want. You're not married to the interest rate, right? That can change. You can refinance. The video you did yesterday with Carson would be a great one for people to go back and watch and see what options they have, you know, to kind of combat some of the higher interest rates right now.
Yeah, because if we were to, and I won't go through everything, but if you were to take, so the first quarter of this year and how things were just going bonkers again, and if someone was buying a $500,000 house, they probably had to pay $650 for that house, and they probably had to miss out on 10 to 20 of those before they'd finally get one.
True story.
They had to do appraisal waivers, and they couldn't ask for anything on the inspection normally, and like all these things because there was so much demand. If you were to say, would you rather have that, or would you rather have this market where we're in now, where you can get this $500,000 house for maybe $480,000? You don't have to compete, or you probably don't have to compete, and you pay a little bit higher percentage rate, but you're paying $150,000, $170K less. Like, it's a no-brainer. Most people would choose that, and so it makes sense to pause because you want to make sure your affordability is good on what you can afford and what that looks like. But man, if people are just waiting for interest rates to go down, what they're doing is they're waiting for all the other buyers to go, ooh, interest rates are down again, and now we all want to buy, and they're going to put themselves back in that same market.
Right.
If you are looking for your forever home or your next season home, like this is a time where you get to have the flexibility to do what you want to do, get the house that you want to get, move in, and then you're moving on with your next season, which is good. And we don't do blanket statements and everyone needs to buy and everyone needs to do this, but this is for the people who have either been on the sideline or who tried and missed, but now they're ready, or this is just a season of life they need to do it. It's a big opportunity. And watch the other video about buy downs and how you can use that and leverage. If interest rates go down, you can put yourself in an amazing position, even buying now at today's interest rates. And if they go up, you've locked yourself in. It's a really smart strategy. So watch the other video. We'll send that to you as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. We talked about it earlier. We're getting to see buyers who were not able to compete in the crazy market we had the last 24 months, able to come back, compete, find their homes that they want to be in. And so it's, you know, it can be done, and we love to talk with people and figure out your individual goals, and there's a good chance there's a strong strategy to help you depending on what those goals are. So
people are getting in for little to zero down. They're doing contingency offers again. So these interest rates are kind of on the back end a blessing to help those as well get into what they need to get into. So it's
I agree. All right, so third leg of this real estate puzzle is talking through the inventory. And real quick, so when we talk about inventory, if we took the number of homes on the market today and we compare that to the demand of the amount of buyers we have in the market, how long would it take to sell out of our inventory if no new inventory was added? And that's how we come up with our inventory numbers. And we just got July's numbers. They came in at for the greater Austin area at 2.7 months. And if we were to look back to last July, that number for the greater Austin area was 0.9 months. So about a 300% increase in the amount of inventory, but I don't know that putting a percentage increase really does justice to kind of what we were seeing. A better way to put it is this, last year and maybe the year before, we were measuring inventory in days.
There were some that had 2 or 3 days of inventory.
Round Rock in March of 21 had 2-3 days of inventory. And now we're getting to measure it in months of inventory.
Yes.
And so, again, it goes back to buyers having a little more opportunities to choose from. But the other thing I like to point out about is that number. I've heard other realtors say that number is scary, seeing our inventory jump up like this, and because it's been a drastic difference, it feels like, oh no, is the sky falling? And as we talked about, going back and comparing it to a couple years ago, like as early as like 2019. If we all went back to 2019, we'd look at our real estate market and go, this is a good area to own real estate. We're in a healthy, strong real estate environment right now. And honestly, I feel like our numbers look very similar to what they did in 2019. And this time in 2019, we had about 2.5 months of inventory. We saw rates in the mid 4s. So we're a little higher in our rates, but not substantially. We saw employment start to pick up. That's when Apple made their announcement. That's when Tesla started to announce. So I don't know, there's a lot of similarities between what was going on summer of 2019, fall of 2019 to what we're seeing today. And I remember that time, and it felt like a very strong real estate market back in 2019. We've just had 2 years that were just beyond what anybody could have expected would happen in a real estate market. And so it feels different. It is different, but it still feels really strong and healthy when it comes to talking real estate. And so, the other thing when I look at inventory, I can also look at kind of our average prices and see what our average prices have done. Even in that 3-year span, I mean, just taking Round Rock, I think Round Rock's up about 70%, 75%, and just the median price for what homes are selling for. So yeah, I think we'd all describe that as a strong, healthy real estate market.
Yeah, it was funny back kind of in the Great Recession, as I was talking with people, our market would slowly go up, slowly go down. It was just very stable because this was just no big turns on things, and it was just we were in a really good spot just in general in the real estate market. And then we saw this spike since 2020, and I think most areas did see that as well. But we've also seen it normalize, even with the abundance of people that are about to be moving in and all the businesses. And so a lot of people are asking, what do you think is going to happen? And I think most experts are saying, like, this is today, a little bit of what we feel. This is kind of our new normal in terms of average price points. Here's where it's at. We might get back to the 4 to 10% appreciation up and down, what that is, but it's just going to be a good feeling 2019 market. Homes will sit on the market a little bit longer. But they will still sell, and they'll be selling at good prices. And that's the other thing, because so we talked about it's a great opportunity for buyers, and I think without question this is a great opportunity to kind of control your destiny, which is great. I love showing a stock chart, and I'll show one of these as well. But also for a seller, if you were to map out, if you bought your home, let's say in 2015 or whatever here, for those locals that are here, you bought it here, and your prices have gone up to here. And so Did we reach the very tippy top? Yeah, and for this short period of time, yes. And is it down a little bit from there? Yes. But are you still selling at one of the top prices you would have done?
Yeah.
And if you look at that like a stock chart, most people would say this is still a really good spot, even versus here. And
Sure.
and so I think it's a great opportunity. And again, you tend to buy in the same market that you're selling in anyways. And so as long as it's part of the plan, it totally makes sense. So we have a lot of people that are coming and they're just looking up and going, okay, it does stink. Maybe it's down a little bit, but you know what? This is higher than we ever thought it was going to be anyways. And they're still making pretty good money. I mean, they're making really good money still on equity on their home.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. The buyers and the sellers that I've spoke with, I think everybody is looking for a little stability to know what to expect in the market. And I think we're finally coming into a season where we have a little stability and we kind of know what the market's doing and able to predict where it's going to be next week, next month, where 6 months ago that was difficult because it was changing daily. And so I don't know, that's what I felt, is just a little more stability in the market. And I think that's what buyers and sellers are looking for as they're trying to make long-term decisions.
Well, and we're gonna challenge y'all. If you have any questions, we're gonna give away 5 Starbucks gift cards to the first 5 people that email us. Just with any questions you might have that's going on in the market. The reason we're doing that is because it might help spur maybe another video that we can do to kind of answer the question. But we get these questions every day, so we want to hear what that might be. So if you have any questions, send us an email. We'll put the email there up on the screen, and we'll send y'all a Starbucks gift card. And because it changes so often, we love answering these questions.
Yeah.
Because we might have said something different 2 weeks ago, but even I was talking with a lender yesterday, and they were saying, "Oh, we're seeing activity pick up again, and here's what's going on." And I heard someone else say, "You know what? People haven't been able to go on many summer vacations over the last couple of years, and this is what they're doing now."
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of things that are changing, but we're very lucky, we're very blessed to be in the Austin, Central Texas area because it's still a great real estate market.
I agree. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.